never seen on Grey's, he's like at the weddings and he talks about how much he loves Lexie. Welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Nwabi, and as per usual I am here to Nwabi on this gorgeous and beautiful evening. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not leave without subscribing, and if you're not, thank you so much for coming back, and I hope you all enjoy this video. So in today's video, it is another Beauty and the Binge where I talk about what I'm binging and I do a makeup look inspired by the binge. So if you haven't watched my other Beauty and the Binges, I've got 2 out and I will put them in the suggestions. I have got one which is 365 Days, I reviewed that movie, and the other which is Blood and Water, where I reviewed that. Today's binge, I'm so excited for this. It is one of my most favorite series. Absolutely love this series. I have binge watched this more than 5 times. I cannot even count. I think I've even binge watched it more than 10 times, because whenever I'm feeling down and I need to pick me up, I'm definitely binging this. And this has been on our screens since the year 2005, and it has been on TV for 16 full seasons. Yes, I am talking about none other than Grey's Anatomy. So in today's video for Grey's Anatomy, I am not going to be reviewing it because it does have 16 seasons and each season has something different to bring. It's just TV magic, even though I do have the opinion that the most latest seasons are really not doing it that much for me. But Grey's Anatomy has been on our screens for 16 full seasons. I feel like I cannot just review it. First of all, I am very much biased. I really enjoyed this, even though there are some iffy seasons and there is some iffy acting here and there. Izzy Stevens, I'm talking about you, sis. But like, I can't review it the way I reviewed like Blood and Water, for example, because it's a lot of seasons. And so I thought, let me just put a twist around it. Get your tissues ready, guys, because we are going to be talking about the deaths that affected us the most on Grey's Anatomy. So while I'm doing a look, I'm going to be talking about the deaths that affected us the most on Grey's Anatomy. And to get these deaths, I did pose a question on both my Twitter and my Instagram. Follow me at Nwabi Ngoqo _ if you want to be involved in these videos. I did pose a question and I got people to answer me, to tell me the deaths. So I have, I think, 6 deaths here. 6 deaths. These are the top 6 deaths that were across the platforms. These were the deaths that really affected people. If you are a person who watches Grey's Anatomy, you definitely know that you cannot get attached to 1, characters, 2, patients, 3, relationships. You definitely cannot get attached to these 3 things, because you know Shonda is going to come from around the corner and she is just going to be like, bloop. Be disappointed, sis, because someone is either 1, going to die, 2, not going to stay forever. In terms of patience, it's either they die or they leave, or 3, the relationship is just gonna last for a little bit and then it's over. So when it comes to Grey's Anatomy, you really cannot like put in your emotions when it comes to those 3 things, because Shonda Rhimes is definitely going to take your emotions and she's gonna squish them up. So let's get started with this binge. Okay, y'all, let's do this. Some of these deaths for me really didn't, some of them didn't really like touch me as badly as they touched other people, but I'm going to be explaining. Yes, I really wanted to outline this. I'm just going to give you guys reasons as to why I think, as someone who has watched this series more than more than 3 times, I've really like binged Grey's so many times. So as someone who has watched the series more than the normal amount, I I kind of understood at points why some people died. So like, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and why I think those people died. And it's just gonna give you guys an explanation and rather an idea as to why and what I think was going on in the writer, who is Shonda Rhimes, in the writer's mind from a behind the scenes perspective, in terms of some people left Grey's because they were kind of like in trouble with Shonda, and behind the scenes they were quite a problematic bunch, and that is why I'm not going to be explaining behind the scenes. I'm going to be talking about the perspective of their character and who they are on the series. Okay, the first death. Let's give a moment of silence. The first death that touched so many people was Dani Duquette. Moment of silence for Dani. Okay. So, Dani Duquette, for those of you who do not know, Dani Duquette was a patient on Grey's Anatomy who Izzy Stevens, which is one of the doctors, the main five, which is Meredith, Christina, Izzy, Alex, and George. So those are the main five interns, for those of you who do not know the series. And so it's basically how they live in the hospital and how they navigate that life as interns. So Dani Duquette is a patient that one of the interns, Izzy, fell in love with. That is already off. But he had a very emotional death, and he was a very emotional lesson for Izzy Stevens. First of all, he was a lesson in the sense that as a doctor, it is very important to differentiate between being emotionally attached to your patients and between being their doctor. So this was the main lesson with Dani Duquette, because with Dani, Izzy fell in love with him, and she crossed tons of lines in her due to her love for him. There are many lines that she crossed for Dani Duquette. She stole the guy a damn heart. That's how badly she was in love with him. So he had to die because he had to teach Izzy a lesson. Izzy was a very overly emotional and overly attached intern, and Dani wasn't the only patient of hers that she would get attached to. She would go very personal, like it would be very personal in Doyake Izzy with patients. And Dani, being the one that she fell in love with, he had to be the lesson. He had to be that one that says, look girl, you definitely have to either one, get a grip, or two, find a different career path, because this is not for you if you're going to keep being emotionally attached to these patients. So that is why I think that Dani had to die. I definitely understand it. Tell me in the comments, what did you think about Dani dying? Did that affect you, or was Dani's death really not that effective, or really didn't jerk your tears? Tell me that in the comments. The next death that affected a lot of people was George OMalley. 007. Oh, George OMalley. I am indifferent about his death. I'm very indifferent because at first, when I found out it was him who was dying in his scene. So George OMalley is one of the original 5 interns whom work with Meredith, who's the main character. So at first, when Meredith realized that the person who got hit by a bus was George, I was heartbroken. Like, I was so sad, and I was just like, oh my word, really? And George was the first main character to really die on Grey's. I understand why George had to go. George's story was finished on Grey's. It was very stagnant, and there was literally nowhere else he could go. He was literally just the repeat intern who ended up passing and becoming a resident. And that was his story. It was done. And there was I don't think there was any way in which his character could be developed any further. Honestly, his character, the development, which was not that much, was done. And in terms of character development, now that I'm thinking about it, George was so annoying. I didn't like him as a character. George was a typical good guy. I'm saying that in inverted commas because good guys always seem to have this sense of entitlement, and they have this sense of, I should be getting the girl because I am such a good guy. Like, if a girl doesn't want him because he's a good guy, why doesn't he have the girl that he wants? He was very much that person, and that was very, very annoying. He was just a horrible person. Like, George was annoying, and he was entitled, and he was a horrible person. And I definitely think he needed to go. He needed to die. I really think that it was time for him to die. I really didn't care for it. Him dying was more satisfactory to me. I'm talking now in rewatching Grace. I was more satisfied that he died. Like, if he didn't die, his character wasn't gonna do much for me in any case. So him dying really just like, and I know that there's some people who really enjoyed the fact that George died, and I'm right there with you, sis. George had to go. So yeah, that was George OMalley's death, and that's the reason why that is the reason why I think that he had to go, other than the fact that he was such a horrible person off screen. George, I'm sure everyone understands George. Please go into the comments and say, I understand George's death. Okay, the next death that I got, that was one of the most voted deaths on my platform, was Henry. This one is so sad, guys. I was really upset about this one. So Henry, if you don't know, Henry is a patient who appeared on Grey's as this guy who was a person, I think he had a sickness of getting tumors all the time, and he did not have insurance. And because he didn't have insurance, Teddy, who is a character and who's introduced to us as a cardiothoracic surgeon who's best friends with Owen Wilson, Teddy gives this guy her insurance. She gets married to this guy for basically insurance fraud, and in doing that, she does this as a favor to the guy, right? But she ends up falling in love with Henry. This is why it's so sad, because just as she was falling in love with Henry and she was at this place of accepting that she loves Henry, a few episodes later, or like a few episodes down the line, he dies. And what hurt the most is Teddy and Henry had a fight before he died, and they didn't have any reconciliation from that fight before he died. That's what hurts me the most, because it's like, could we have at least gotten a scene where they're at least like talk to each other and there are apologies and they feel good, and really good. I'm getting sad all over again thinking about these deaths, guys. I'm really getting sad. Henry didn't deserve that. But I guess the reason why he had to go is because Henry was played by the actor who plays Jake on Scandal. For this one, I am going to be going a little bit behind the scenes, because I didn't really realize or find another explanation for it, because him and Teddy were doing great, you know? So I think because he was on Scandal and he was a series regular on Scandal, he couldn't be a series regular on both. And that is Henry's death. Then we get to the next death, which was Lexie. Oh, I'm so sad about this. This one hurt me so much. It hurts me so much because, wow. The journey that Meredith and Lexie went through in terms of a sisterly relationship, Lexie really helped Meredith grow so much as a human being and as the best of a person that she was. So Lexie Gray is Meredith's younger sister, but from her dad's side, because her dad and her mom divorced, and Lexie was as a result of her Meredith's dad's remarrying. So that's how Lexie comes to play, and her character is introduced to us when Meredith is going to become a resident. And in becoming a resident, okay, just give me a moment, guys. I just need to do this. I need to outline what I'm doing. Okay. So I was saying that Lexie got introduced to us as Meredith's sister from from the same mister, actually. As Meredith's sister from the same mister. And so in terms of growth, she really helped Meredith grow. So Lexie died in the plane crash of season 8, which is the finale of season 8. That's how Lexie dies, in a plane crash while saying they're meant to be with Mark. But when I rewatched Grey's, I'm gonna say this a lot, but when I rewatched Grey's, I realized that Lexie's character had developed to all it could be, and her role on Grey's was complete in the sense that she had done what she had to come and do on Grey's. She came to shake Meredith's life but help her develop and grow. So she had done that, and she literally had nothing more going on for her on Grey's Anatomy. And also, literally her only storyline was Mark. At that point, her only story was Mark. She was not trying to develop a relationship with Meredith because she had already gotten one, and there's nothing more. She only had Mark as a character, and her arc had arrived. Like, there was nowhere else she could go other than Mark. If you realize, she had way fewer scenes in the season that she was her last season, which is season 8. Her last season, she didn't have that many scenes, and if she did, it was just basically to get the story going with regards to her on and off relationship with Mark Sloan. So I feel like in terms of her, she had completed her story on Grey's. So I really understand why she had to die. She had to go because she literally had no story left. Which comes to be the same for our next character, Mark. So Mark also died in the same car crash as Lexie did. But the tough and really sad thing about Mark is that he didn't die during the plane crash. It would have been much better if he died during the plane crash, but he gave us hope that he's alive. He stayed alive after the plane crash and only died in the next season, and shows us he died in a coma. So Mark's death that really hurt me. Like, that one really hurt me because I really had hope when it comes to Mark. I had hope that he was gonna stay alive, especially because he got that surge of energy. I forgot what it's called, but he got that surge of energy, and he was like speaking, and he was showing improvement. Like, I'm just getting emotional right now thinking about it. He was showing improvement, and then he died. And it's so emotional for me because Kelly had such hope, and I'm like getting teary about it because Mark's death really touched me. I just hate the fact that we were given hope that he's gonna live, and we were shown, like, I always cry even when I rewatch. I can't be crying right now because I'm gonna mess up my makeup, but I always cry even when I rewatch Grey's Anatomy because they literally give us a montage and like memories. Oh my God, what the hell is going on? They give us a montage of Mark showing us the memories, and it shows us like videos that we've never seen on Grey's. He's like at the weddings and he talks about how much he loves Lexie. Guys, I don't know what's going on, but he talks about how much he really loved Lexie and how Lexie would have been, because there's a question that the person at Kelly and Arizona's wedding, there's a question that someone asks that if like you were to get married, who would it be with? And he says like Lexie, and then Lexie just died in the previous episode. And so it's just so emotional because he dies in a coma, so it's just laying there. And then I can't talk about this anymore, but like he dies, and I understand why he died, because him and Lexie, both of them, they really had no other story around Grace. Like, he was done. And I think in terms of his personal career and development, he said that he feels like Mark Sloan had played his character, and also the reason why Mark came onto Grace was because he came to fix his relationship with Derek, who was his best friend. But he was there to fix his relationship with Derek, and he had fixed it, so his story was finished. Like, him and Derek were like a really great place again, you know. And they were doing okay as friends, and then the plane crash happened, and then he had such an emotional time with Lexie, telling each other that they were meant to be. And the toughest thing about that, them telling each other that they were meant to be, they told each other when they were dying, when they were still alive. They didn't have the chance to tell each other that they love each other, so it hurt so much. But so Mark had to go because his story was done, and Lexie was no longer there, so he had really nothing to live for. And what is sad is he really says, I have nothing to live for anymore because Lexie's gone. I might as well go call Lexie. And he talks to Arizona, and he's like that. Lexie's waiting for him. Okay guys, I got myself back together again. I'm so sorry about that lapse, that moment, that lapse. I get really sad about Mark's death because it really hurt me. Like, Mark's death really hurt me, and it just makes me sad how he was like to Arizona that, don't worry, Lexie is waiting for me on the other side. I'm just going to join Lexie. So that just gave me a sense of peace that he's going to join Lexie. But really, like, his death really hurt me. And I think of all deaths on Grey's Anatomy, his one was the most touching for me. Like, for real, it was like, wow. Then we are on our sixth and final death. This death is really a big one. This death is the death of Derek Shepherd. Oh, guys. Yo, sangindilile on this day. I was inconsolable. I was shattered. I was crying. I remember I watched it with my friend Udimpo, and we were crying. Guys, I was like so sad about Derek dying, especially considering he had just saved the life of that family and those people in that car crash. And then on top of it all, Derek is a neurosurgeon, and the way in which he died is a way in which, if he was his own doctor, he could have saved himself. That's what hurts me the most, is that it's so ironic the way in which he dies as a neurosurgeon, because he dies of a brain bleed and he's trying his utmost best to talk to these doctors. No, not me crying again. Not me, no. But he's unconscious, so no one is hearing him, and you can hear him going through his thoughts in his head whilst I'm being emotional. I've already finished my makeup. He talks to them whilst he is unconscious. He tries to talk to them, trying to save his life, but he doesn't. And him and Meredith had just made up, in the sense that there was like a rift between them, because he had a huge job opportunity but in another town, and Meredith didn't want to go with him because Christina gave her that great line that even though he is dreamy, he is not the son you are. So she didn't go with him, and so he had come back and he was like, you know what, that big opportunity does not give me the satisfaction of being a family with you. And then he died in a car accident. When I think about the reasons as to why Derek died, I feel like him and Meredith's relationship had reached its peak. It had reached the point in which it could go, like, because basically Grey's Anatomy from season 1 to season 11 is Meredith and Derek's love story, and they had gone through everything. There's literally nothing more that they could have gone through. Their relationship come to a halt, and not really a halt, but their relationship had reached its peak. And if he had not died and they had stayed together, it would have probably plateaued, which means it would have had a lot of problems, and then they would break up, of which I don't think that's something that as Grey's Anatomy fans and as McDreamy fans we would want. I don't think so. So I think they would have had to break up. And secondly, if not, then some sort of tragedy, something tragic would have happened that would have made them not lost, because like relationships of Grey's Anatomy hardly ever lost. They they never lost it. So I think that the reason that he died, his and Meredith's story had come to an end, and there's literally nothing more as a couple that they could have gone through to develop their relationship or to develop Grey's Anatomy. And I think that's why he had to die. Also, in rewatching Grey's, I kind of went through a phase of disliking Derek because he was super narcissistic, and he also he always viewed himself as the attending, and Meredith was really the intern that fell in love with the attending. Because in their relationship, in terms of, even though power dynamics and everything, that aside, but in the relationship, he would put his career above Meredith's, and that's something that really irritated me, especially considering the fact that he is a man. But anyway, I think that's why he had to die, because his relationship with Meredith had reached its peak, and I really don't think that emotionally, as the viewers, we were going to be okay with its plateau or with its downfall. So at least let them die, or let him die when they were still happy and they were in a good place, than have them break up, go through a divorce or something like that. And also Patrick Dempsey, I think he says he understood why he had died when he read his script, and when he shot his last scene, he was like, this is the end, and I understand why, because in his career, his McDreamy days were finished. And I think that is why he had to die. That is the reason why those 6 people had to die. I just needed to debunk it and give you guys an understanding and an explaining from a binge watch perspective, as these characters, their characters or their character development had nowhere else to go but death. And this is the final look, guys. Funny how we are in a pandemic and we wear masks all the time. But the reason why I did this mask is because on Grey's Anatomy, they are doctors. I don't have scrubs. So I just needed something to show that I'm a doctor too. And that is the look, guys. And those are my thoughts on the deaths of Grey's Anatomy and why I think they happened. I hope I did not dampen your mood that much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me whose death on Grey's Anatomy affected you the most. If not in these 6 characters that I talked about in today's video, anyone else, you can definitely tell me that in the comments. And also, of the 6, whose death was so devastating to you? Obviously for me it was Mark, but for you it could be someone else. So definitely tell me that in the comments. Do not forget to recommend what else you'd like to see me review or have a sort of thoughtful talk about that series or movie. Does not matter, and I'll definitely get on it. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Follow me on all my socials. I am at Nwabi Ngoqo _ on all my socials, including Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, yonkinto at Nwabi Ngoqo _ I'll put it here down below as well. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Until next time, guys, ciao.